Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, top military officials brief lawmakers and defend their actions against cartels in the southern Caribbean Sea. And the Trump administration warning that land strikes could begin soon. Luis Martinez says what we know about the closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill. President Trump hosting the leaders of the Congo and Rwanda to facilitate the signing of the Washington Accords, a peace deal between the two nations. And the White House ordering flags at half-staff around the nation in honor of National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. Mario Tzu reports. Britain and Norway sign a first-of-its-kind pact to defend critical undersea cables from Russian submarines. It follows mounting worries that Russian vessels sailing in UK waters could strike the infrastructure with potentially global consequences. Malcolm Hudson brings us the latest. Israel confirms the identity of a body handed over from the Gaza Strip, which leaves the body of one hostage remaining in the territory. Meanwhile, the United States sets up its first one-way attack drone squadron in the Middle East. Jason Perry, the details.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. Busy day on Capitol Hill as lawmakers received a classified briefing on drug boat strikes in the Caribbean. The House of Representatives welcomed a new member and Democrats unveiled their health care proposal. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the details.
Admiral Bradley and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff did the right thing. Admiral Bradley defended the decisions taken, and Admiral Bradley has a storied career, and he has my respect, and he should have the respect of all of us.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and the commander of U.S. Special Operations, Admiral Frank Bradley, briefed lawmakers on a classified setting on the September 2nd drug boat strike that killed 11 narco-terrorists.
Now there's a whole set of contextual items that the Admiral explained. Yes, they were carrying drugs.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
Top military officials in a classified setting briefed lawmakers on the nuances of their decision-making, including intelligence that survivors of the initial strike had contacted their drug operation to salvage the illegal drugs.
The Admiral confirmed that there had not been a kill them all order and that there was not an order to grant no quarter.
Today, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson swore in the new congressman from Tennessee's 7th District, Republican Congressman Matt Van Epps, after his electoral victory in Tuesday's special election.
I come to this distinguished body as a Christian, a husband and a father, and an Army Special Operations helicopter pilot with 9 combat tours who has seen firsthand what makes this nation exceptional.
And on the Senate side, Democrats unveiled their proposal to address the expiring Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies, a 3-year clean extension of the COVID-era subsidies.
Every single Democrat will support it. Every single Democrat. That means Republicans have only 1 week to decide where they stand.
The Democratic proposal will receive a vote on the Senate floor next week, as was part of the agreement that Republicans reached with Democrats to reopen government last month. Republicans have made it clear that a clean extension is an unacceptable proposal, and the bill is expected to fail, making the vote a mere messaging exercise. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Trump facilitating the signing of a peace deal between the Congo and Rwanda, as well as agreements on critical minerals and national security, and the president honoring West Virginia National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. Well, the administration tightens the policy on work permits for immigrants. Our Washington correspondent Mario Tzu has more from the North Lawn of the White House.
Today we commit to stopping decades of violence and bloodshed and to begin a new era of harmony and cooperation between the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
President Trump hosting the leaders of the Congo and Rwanda here in Washington to sign what they're calling the Washington Accords.
For more than 30 years, one of the worst conflicts on earth has been raging in eastern Congo, millions and millions of people have been tragically killed. So many administrations have tried, and today we're succeeding where so many others have failed.
These accords formalize the terms of an agreement made between the two countries back in June. The terms include a permanent ceasefire, disarmament of non-state forces, provisions for refugees to return to their homes, and justice and accountability for everyone who committed illegal acts. The agreement also includes critical mineral deals with the two countries.
And we'll be involved with sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries, and we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money.
As Washington looks for ways to circumvent China to acquire rare earths, with President Trump recently signing a flurry of rare earths deals with other nations in efforts to curb U.S. dependence on China. Meanwhile, President Trump is ordering all flags to fly at half-staff today in honor of West Virginia National Guard Sarah Beckstrom. Beckstrom was only 20 years old when she was shot and killed by an Afghan national on Thanksgiving Eve, just blocks away from the White House. Since then, President Trump has vowed to permanently pause what he calls migration from all third world countries and tighten work permits for migrants.
This heinous atrocity reminds us that we have no greater national security priority than ensuring that we have full control over the people that enter and remain in our country. For the most part, we don't want them.
The president criticizes the Biden-era program called Operation Allies Welcome, which provided entry to Afghan nationals after the U.S.'s 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal, saying that the shooting suspect was, quote, one of those flown in by the Biden administration.
We are conducting thorough scrutiny, security screening. Once screened and cleared, we will welcome these Afghans who helped us in the war effort over the last 20 years to their new home in the United States of America, because that's who we are. That's what America is.
This is what it looked like when they came in. It was total bedlam. Do you remember that period of time? Total bedlam. People crammed onto the plane, and the toughest, meanest, most capable physically got on the plane, not the people that we were looking for or that they wanted to bring in.
Reporting from the White House, Mariotsu, NTD News.
The U.S. Appeals Court today is allowing the Trump administration to keep National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. The D.C. Circuit Court lifted a lower court's order that would have ended the deployment in the coming days. That order required the troops to leave by December 11th. The D.C. Attorney General had filed a lawsuit to end the deployment in a battle over policing powers. A district court judge had ruled on November 20th that the troop presence was likely unlawful. President Trump recently increased the number of Guard troops in D.C. by 500 after the November 26th shooting of 2 National Guard members. One of the 2 Guard members has since died from her injuries. Britain and Norway signed a first-of-its-kind pact to defend subsea cables from Russian interference. The UK has in recent years seen growing Russian presence in UK waters, prompting worries from NATO allies of potential attacks on the critical infrastructure. More now from NTD's international correspondent, Malcolm Hudson.
Britain and Norway have joined forces to hunt Russian submarines with their combined fleet of warships. The Lunar House Agreement is a first-of-its-kind pact aimed at protecting critical undersea cables, which NATO allies believe are under increasing threat from Moscow. British Defence Secretary John Healey said this is an important moment for the two nations.
In this era of new threat, it underlines how our closest allies matter more than ever.
The deal will allow a fleet of at least 13 anti-submarine ships from the UK and Norway to operate jointly in Northern Europe. The warships will monitor Russian naval movements in the waters between Greenland, Iceland and the UK. As part of the arrangement, the two allies will build a mine-hunting mothership capable of deploying drones to seek out underwater explosives. It builds on Norway's $13 billion purchase of UK warships at a time of heightened threats from Russia. Norwegian Defence Secretary Tor Sandvik said the pact marked a burden shift, saying more money will be spent on defence.
So this strategic partnership together with you is also a new model for how to integrate in the European and part of NATO when we are now building our forces.
Britain's Royal Navy and Royal Air Force routinely shadow potential threats to national security. Missions to monitor Russian vessels and submarines have become more frequent since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. The UK's Ministry of Defence has found a 30% rise in Russian vessels sighted in UK waters in the past 2 years. In a September report, the UK's National Security Strategy Committee warned attacks on undersea infrastructure could cause catastrophic disruption. Around 90% of all British internet data passes through undersea cables. Given that London is a major global financial hub, if the cables were severed, it would have a serious impact across the world. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, UK.
In the Middle East, Israeli officials have identified the body handed over yesterday to be that of a Thai hostage. That now leaves the body of one hostage remaining in the Gaza Strip. NTD's Jason Perry has the update.
On Thursday, Israeli officials confirmed the body recently handed over from the Gaza Strip to be that of Thai hostage Sathius Renthalik. Israeli government spokesperson Shosh Bedrosian said Renthalik was an agriculture worker in Israel and regularly sent money back to his family in Thailand. Bedrosian explained that there were other Thai citizens who were kidnapped during the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th.
This was captured on October 7th by surveillance video. As you can see, a Thai hostage being brought into a hospital. As you can see, hospitals were used by Hamas.
As of Thursday, the body of one hostage remains in the Gaza Strip, that of Israeli police officer Ran Gavili. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Gavili fought back against Hamas terrorists on October 7th.
He fought to defend Kibbutz Alumim. He killed 14 terrorists and did so with supreme bravery. Unfortunately, he was killed in the same battle, and his body was kidnapped. We are determined to bring Ronnie back for a proper burial in Israel, and we will spare no effort to do so.
Gavili's sister explained that it was difficult being the last family waiting to receive their loved one.
We see all the other family that their son is come back, and we see in their eyes that they have relieved, because they know where is their son.
Israel said they sent a delegation to Egypt on Thursday and held talks with mediators in an effort to bring back the final hostage. And in a related development, 9 Filipinos were seen getting off the plane in Manila on Thursday after being held hostage in Yemen for 5 months. In July, the Iran-backed Houthi terrorist group attacked the ship the men were aboard, killing 4 people and sinking the ship. It was not immediately clear why the Houthis have now released them. And as attack drones become more prevalent in war, the United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, announced a new task force for the U.S. military's first one-way attack drone squadron based in the Middle East. But the announcement didn't specify where in the Middle East the squadron will be located. CENTCOM's commander said, quote, "This new task force sets the conditions for using innovation as a deterrent." Jason Perry, NTD News.
Coming up, accused killer Luigi Mangione was back in court today for day 3 of pretrial hearings to determine whether certain evidence obtained during his arrest can be kept out of the trial. Arlene Richards reports from the Manhattan courthouse. And House lawmakers stress the importance of staying ahead of China's ambition to be the world leader in space. And Jason Blair has the highlights from a hearing on Capitol Hill when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Accused killer Luigi Mangione was back in court today for day 3 of pretrial hearings to determine whether or not certain evidence obtained during his arrest can be kept out of the trial. NTD's Arlene Richards brings us more from the courthouse, where the prosecution has called its next witness.
Luigi Mangione was in the courtroom on Thursday for the 3rd day of pretrial hearings over whether or not certain evidence should be kept out of the case. Officer Tyler Fry was on the stand. He was one of 2 officers who arrived at the McDonald's where Luigi Mangione was eventually arrested. He testified that Luigi Mangione was taken into custody and placed under arrest before his backpack was searched, which is key to the prosecution's case. Mangione was attentive in writing several notes as Altoona, Pennsylvania police officer Tyler Fry took the stand and testified about his encounter with Mangione in a local McDonald's. Fry is one of 2 officers who responded to a call from a McDonald's manager who said several customers had identified Mangione as the man New York police were looking for in their investigation of a shooting that killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Fry, 26, testified that he had been on the police force less than a year in December 2024 when he and Officer Detweiler received the call. The prosecutors showed body cam footage of their encounter with Mangione in an effort to establish that the officers did not search Mangione's property until after he was formally arrested and taken into custody. The defense has accused the officers of illegally searching Mangione's backpack, where they reportedly found several items, including a 9mm handgun that police say matches the weapon used to shoot Thompson, and a notebook with handwritten notes about the healthcare industry. Mangione's attorneys have asked the court to remove these items from the evidence that will be shown to a jury at trial. According to some legal experts, once an individual has been taken into custody, police can search any property that is either on his person or very close by without a warrant. Fry testified, and the footage confirmed that Mangione's property was within 2 feet of him at the time it was searched. Through Fry's testimony, the prosecution established that Mangione provided a fake driver's license with the name Mark Rosario. After learning that it was fake, an officer asked Mangione why he lied, and the defendant answered, "That was the ID I had in my wallet." Officers told Mangione he was being arrested for a false ID. They later found out his real name. The prosecution also established that Fry was following Pennsylvania law and not New York law at the time of the search, which could be a key fact regarding how and when the search was conducted. Mangione stayed focused on the video as it played and frequently took notes as well as talked to his attorneys. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Lawmakers and experts stress that keeping ahead of China in space is vital for economic and national security. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more from a hearing held on Capitol Hill.
The question we should be asking as we explore beyond the planet is, will humanity carry forward the American values of economic and political freedom, or those of the Chinese Communist Party?
Members of the House Space and Aeronautics Subcommittee expressed the importance for the U.S. to stay ahead of China with space exploration and technology.
The People's Republic of China, for which there is no distinction between civil and military space, knows that leadership in space has brought the United States invaluable geopolitical soft power, significant and beneficial international alliances, economic growth fueled by innovation.
Chairman Mike Herodopoulos says China's objective is not to just keep up with the U.S., but to outpace, outmaneuver, and ultimately defeat the U.S.
But America is not standing still. In my district, Kennedy Space Center, we surpassed 100 launchers just 2 weeks ago. China is not even close, with around 73 launches. Still, Beijing is pressing ahead. Their plans include landing their astronauts on the lunar surface by 2030 and constructing research base on the moon's south pole by 2035.
Subcommittee ranking member Valerie Fucci says that how the U.S. navigates China's ascending space capabilities today has an impact on every American.
Our banking, communications, weather prediction, agriculture, natural resource management, and national security, for example, all rely on space systems.
One expert witness says that space, from the Chinese Communist Party's view, boosts all parts of China's national power.
Military, economic, diplomatic, political, scientific and technological, even cultural.
Other experts shared their thoughts and recommendations.
We have many advantages over the PRC, structural advantages that we can use to maintain our edge. But to do so, we need to start running.
We are engaged not so much in a space race, but a long-term, broad strategic competition.
Every new space technology, skill, and industrial capacity acquired by the PRC will be used to provide the People's Liberation Army a battlefield advantage, as well as power civilian and commercial innovation and economic growth.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
The Supreme Court today allowed Texas to use a congressional map that will boost President Trump's effort to keep Republicans in control of Congress. A lower court had found the new boundaries were likely unconstitutional because they were drawn based on race. The decision could have significant consequences for next year's midterm elections, which will determine control of the House for the final 2 years of Trump's presidency. The 3 liberal justices dissented. Coming up, after almost 5 years, investigators say they have found the individual who planted 2 bombs before the January 6th Capitol breach. Why did the case take this long? David Lamb has details when we come back. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are lighting up the White House Christmas tree tonight. Let's tune in.
House and President's Park, where for over 100 years this uniquely American tradition has brought our country together.
And as we come together tonight, it's important to remember those who can't be here with us. So let's give a special moment of deep appreciation to all of our men and women in uniform serving this great nation around the world. And may they feel our gratitude for all that they give.
Absolutely. That's right. We are so thankful. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It is beautiful, not too cold. There's no wind. We don't have to wear hats or anything. This is a special time, and Melania and I are thrilled to wish everyone here tonight and Americans all across this land a very, very Merry Christmas. So is everybody ready to light the beautiful Christmas tree? Are you ready? So the First Lady is going to do the honors. And we're going to do a countdown. We'll go from 5 to 0, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Honey. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Melania. And it's a beautiful job they did on creating that tree. It's a beauty. And let me also recognize Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha, as well as Secretaries Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretaries Doug Burgum and Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., Administrator Kelly Loeffler, and their wonderful families are doing a fantastic job. And I see out in the audience the great one, Wayne Gretzky and Janet. Thank you very much, Wayne, for being here. He's used to this kind of weather. Let's also express our gratitude to the great people of the National Park Service. They're incredible, the job they've done, as well as the unbelievable performers here tonight. You're going to see some incredible performers, and we have in the audience the Beach Boys. They're great. During this holy season, Christians everywhere rejoice at the miracle in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago, when the Son of God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came down from heaven to be with us. You're right. Full of grace and truth, he brought the gift of God's love into the world and the promise of salvation for every person and every nation. And we just settled another war today. You saw that with Rwanda and the Congo. It's been going on for 34 years, millions of people killed. Could be 20 million. They don't know what the number is, and we just settled it today. That was a big one. We're very happy to announce it on this important day. Tonight, this beautiful evergreen tree glows bright on the dark and cold winter night and reminds us of the words of Gospel of John, in him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. Beautiful words. With the birth of Jesus, human history turned from night to day. His word and his example call us to love one another, to serve one another, and to honor the sacred truth that every child is specially made in the image of God. For 250 years, think of it, our country is 250 years. This is a big year. I'm so happy that our presidency was delayed. Otherwise, I'd be sitting home watching television, not being invited. I would be extremely upset. And remember, we have not only the 250 years, but this is a big one. We have the World Cup and we have the Olympics coming up, all within this 4-year period. See, if they didn't rig the election, I would have been sitting, can you imagine? I wouldn't have any of them, and I probably wouldn't have been invited. I would have been very upset by that. But America has stood tall in part because millions of our citizens have heeded that call, and the faith and service of Christians have been essential parts of America's strength from the very, very beginning. Incredible. We love the Christians. We love all religions. And by the way, religion is coming back to the USA. You see that very strongly. So this Christmas season, let me say thank you to everyone who serves the needy and lifts up the communities inspired by faith. Thank you to the police, law enforcement officers, first responders, ICE, and Border Patrol agents who risk their lives every day to defend the innocent, protect the good, and keep the evil and danger at bay. And thank you to the men and women of the United States military, including the brave heroes of our National Guard here in Washington, D.C., where we've set a record for lack of crime in 28 years. So I just want to say we have a great place, and I want to pay my highest respects to those two great guardsmen. You know who I'm talking about. They paid, in one case, the ultimate, and the other. Andrew is getting better. Sarah, unfortunately, is watching from a high, watching from heaven. Her parents are so incredible, and Andrew is hopefully getting better. He got hit hard defending us, and I just want to pay my respects to them, two incredible people, unbelievable people. I spoke with the parents and met the parents today, the parents of Andrew, and they have spirit and they love our country so much you wouldn't believe. But as a nation, we have much to be grateful for. On this holiday season, our border is secure, our spirit is restored. Most secure border we've ever had in the history of our country. 7 months and nobody has come in illegally into our country.
And that was President Trump speaking at the tree-lighting ceremony in our nation's capital. The nearly 5-year-old D.C. pipe bomb case sees new light. FBI agents arrest a Virginia man suspected of placing the bombs one day before the January 6th Capitol breach. NTD's David Lamb reports.
FBI agents arrested Brian Cole Jr. and raided his home on Thursday morning in Woodbridge, Virginia. Officials identified Cole as the suspect in the pipe bombing attempt in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the events of January 6, 2021. He's charged with transportation of an explosive device in interstate commerce and attempted destruction with explosive material.
You're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset. Not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away.
On January 5th, 2021, pipe bombs were placed outside the office of the Democratic National Committee, as well as near the headquarters of the Republican National Committee. Surveillance footage showed a person wearing a hooded sweatshirt and face mask, but no arrests had been made for nearly 5 years.
Brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads.
Investigators searched through more than 3 million lines of information, traced sales of materials that could have been used to make the bombs, and reviewed cell phone tower data to find the suspect.
There was no new tip. There was no new witness. Just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work.
On January 6, 2021, law enforcement found the 2 bombs as Congress convened in the Capitol to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election between President Trump and then-candidate Joe Biden. Neither of the bombs had detonated. The Bureau had offered a $500,000 reward for information in the case. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said that after he and Director Kash Patel took office early this year, they evaluated a number of high-profile cases and decided to push additional resources to the pipe bomb investigation.
We have seen in this case an incredible collaboration around the clock, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. We call each other, we make contact, they need a warrant, they need something, someone wants legal advice. These are the men and women who never give it up. And this case is big.
As the case is active and ongoing, officials have not yet revealed a motive. Patel said more information and a timeline will be made public within 24 hours. David Lamb, NTD News.
And for analysis on the arrest, we're bringing in John Lott, an author and the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. John, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here. First, give us your thoughts on what's happened here nearly 5 years later, and we've got a suspect.
Well, thanks for having me on. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It took 5 years to do this. It's pretty clear, I think, that the previous administration was not interested in trying to solve this. No new information apparently was needed in order to go and solve this crime. They just re-looked at the stuff that they already had acquired. MS Now is reporting that this individual had Antifa ties, which is left-wing. Obviously, that goes kind of against the narrative that was put out during the Biden administration. That somehow this was probably a Trump supporter, even though they had put these bombs next to both the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee headquarters. I think it's an embarrassment that the FBI for all those years was unable to bring this case to a conclusion.
Now, speaking of the FBI has made it a priority to go after the worst of the worst. Now, I want to hone in on this. The Justice Department has been going after the 764 network, which it describes as a violent extremist group that originated in Texas in 2021. Authorities say it preys on children and teenagers, coercing them to harm themselves and send explicit pictures. Now, in an interview with the Epoch Times recently, FBI Director Kash Patel said arrests linked to the network are up almost 500% this year. I want to play a clip from him and then have you react after.
Criminals were convincing children to mutilate themselves. And in some cases, unfortunately more than one, these children ended up committing suicide because they were threatened by the perpetrator that we will go public if you tell anyone.
Now, the 764 network hasn't been around for long, but is accused of carrying out horrific crimes. What do we know about them?
Well, I think that adequately or accurately describes what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a group that uses extreme violence. They do literally incredibly disgusting things like forcing these young children to literally carve the name of the people that are holding them into their skin. They use all sorts of threats against the children as well as their families in order to try to control them in different ways. And describing them as the worst of the worst, I think, is an accurate description.
Now, Patel says members of the 764 network subscribe to a shared perverted ideology, but operate in a decentralized way online. How difficult is it to take down a group like this?
Well, surely it makes it more difficult. I mean, if you have one central coordinating actor or group there, once you take that down, and you would normally kind of work your way up through different contacts to the top there. But once you got to the top, then you would pretty much eliminate the entire organization, or at least greatly limit it. Unfortunately, when you have this type of horizontal organization, it takes a lot longer to kind of roll the whole thing up. They're making progress, not only in crimes in this area, but in many other areas, but it's just a more difficult process.
Now, some say the far-left extremist group Antifa is just an idea or doesn't have any organizational structure, but Patel's FBI seems to have a different view. Here he is talking about efforts to take them down. I want to play some sound on that.
So we're treating them as a terrorist organization that they are, and mapping out the money, and you know this from me. I've always said, follow the money. So with our partners in Treasury, we are following the money and mapping out this entire network and treating them as a terrorist organization under the authorities the president has given us.
And John, some Antifa leaders in America fled after President Trump designated the group a terrorist organization. Now, if the FBI and others keep up this pressure for the entirety of Trump's term, will we see significant changes in America?
Well, I hope so. I mean, you've brought up several different points here. First of all, with regard to the organization, look, I mean, obviously, it's not just something that just occurs in terms of the riots that are taking place at different areas, or to have the support there, or to have the money to go and bail people out of jail. Somebody is coordinating, everybody showing up at these riots together at the same time. That indicates some form of organization to me. And the fact that they will go and make sure that they have the signs that they need, or the bricks or other things that they're going to be throwing at the police. These are obviously brought in. There's some coordination that's occurring there. And obviously, I think by definition, there's some organization. It's just not something that just spontaneously shows up. Somebody has to go and show up at the jail in order to go and post bail for these individuals when they do get arrested. Well, again, that shows some type of organization there, both in terms of raising the money and in terms of holding the money and in terms of organizing people to go and get other people out of jail.
And it does look like Patel is looking to reform the FBI and its focus. He says he wants to allow good cops to be cops. He's also putting more emphasis on staffing FBI field offices outside of Washington, D.C. Now, he says this has already contributed to the lowest murder rate in modern history. Here he is talking about that.
So what we did was we put 1,000 more agents in the field. Nearly every single state and every field office got a plus up of actual agents to go hit the streets, do the work that the president assigned us to do in terms of priorities, defending the homeland, crushing violent crime.
And John, you're an expert on crime in America. What do you make of this strategy?
Well, it definitely seems to be working. Look, as he said, right now it looks like we may have the lowest murder rate ever recorded in U.S. history this year. That's a very dramatic change from the changes in violent crime that we'd seen over the previous 4 years. I mean, during the previous 4 years, we had a 59% increase in violent crime. That was the largest percentage increase in violent crime over any 4-year period that had ever been recorded by the Bureau of Justice Statistics in the Department of Justice. We had never even seen anything even close to that in terms of a large percentage. And I think the types of policies that were being mentioned, like moving FBI agents out of D.C. to where the crimes are occurring, is important. It doesn't do you any good to have them in Washington, D.C. It may help their careers because that's where people get advanced, but it doesn't help in terms of reducing crime. This year, they've made something like 30,000 arrests so far this year. That's a 100% increase over the number of arrests that occurred during the entire year last year by the FBI. That's a huge increase. 25,000 of those 30,000 are for violent crimes. And so, under the Biden administration, you had the FBI going and recording the license plates for people who had attended school board meetings. You had infiltration and spying on Catholics who supported doing the Latin Mass. It's really a misuse of resources there. Having them go after violent criminals, having them go where the crimes are occurring, that's very important. And look, it's more than just the FBI, though that's been important. I think changes in dealing with illegal immigrants has been important. It's not an accident, not just a coincidence to me, that we had this massive increase in violent crime over the last 4 years. At the same time, we had this unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into the country. And this year, when they are going and deporting criminal illegal aliens, we've seen this drop in murder rates. And I think when it comes out a year from now, the data on violent crime will see a similar drop in terms of violent crime across the board. You got to look at this and just think of the fact that it's more than just the illegal aliens that you've deported. You have other illegal alien criminals who we haven't caught yet, but they also are committing less crime because they don't want to get deported. And one way to try to keep them from getting deported is to keep their heads down and not commit crime. Because if they go and commit crime, they're going to get on the radar of police. And if they get arrested, that makes it more likely that they'll be turned over to ICE and deported. And so the safest course of action for them is just not to commit crime. So we have a couple reasons why I think what they're doing with regard to illegal aliens and what they're doing at the FBI and Trump going and moving law enforcement into one city after another, like Memphis, which had a huge crime problem, or Washington, D.C., or soon into New Orleans. All those things help.
A lot of changes in priorities as you laid out there. John Lott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, a polar vortex will bring blasts of Arctic air across the central and eastern U.S. over the next few weeks. The cold and snow squalls could bring the season's lowest temperatures to many areas. Christina Corona brings us the weather update. And the FIFA World Cup trophy is in Washington, D.C. All eyes are on the final draw happening tomorrow. What Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says about travel leading up to the major sporting event after the break. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A shifting polar vortex will bring several blasts of Arctic air to the central and eastern U.S. through the middle of the month. Each cold wave could bring accumulating snow to affected areas. NTD's Christina Corona reports on some of the locations expected to be hit the hardest.
Freezing temperatures are expected to hit much of the central and eastern United States over the next few weeks. The first of 3 polar vortex systems is expected this month, bringing surges of Arctic air that could spark flurries, snow squalls, and even larger storms in some areas. According to AccuWeather, this week's outbreak will likely be the first of 3, with another cold blast possible next week and a third the week after, which could drive up energy demands. The upper Midwest and northern plains are already feeling the impact of Canada's Arctic air, with wind chills ranging from -10 to -25 degrees expected on Thursday. The cold wave will hit states including North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and parts of the Northeast, with frigid temperatures lingering into Friday. The first Arctic front will sweep off the Northeast coast Thursday night, bringing flurries, snow showers, and heavier snow squalls across New York and New England. Some areas in the Northeast could drop well below zero, including the Adirondacks in northeastern New York, where temperatures may reach near 20 below zero. Boston could see lows in the teens with widespread temperatures in the 20s from New York City to Washington, D.C. Where winds are strong, temperatures could feel 10 to 25 degrees colder than the actual air temperature. Officials say anyone who hasn't winterized their homes, checked furnaces, or stocked heating fuel should do so as soon as possible. Christina Corona, NTD News.
The FIFA World Cup trophy has arrived in Washington, D.C., touring some of the U.S. Capitol's most iconic sites ahead of the final draw tomorrow. Soccer's ultimate prize was then showcased at the legendary John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The historic 48-team final draw for the FIFA World Cup 2026 will take place tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says 6 million fans will journey to the U.S. for the event. Duffy said the government would make travel into the country seamless.
We're going to make it as easy as possible so you can come in and enjoy the great World Cup event that's going to go off.
Duffy said the Transportation Department has been working on plans for air, rail, bus, subway, and car travel. Duffy added that President Trump gave all cabinet heads a directive to, quote, make sure this is the greatest sporting event for the World Cup ever. The 2026 World Cup will take place from June 11th to July 19th across 16 host cities in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Leaders of all three countries will attend the final draw in D.C. tomorrow. And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.